Hey guys, thank you so much for being here for my Westworld live chat. If you watched last night's episode, which I hope you did, because if not, you're seriously going to be spoiled. It was insane. I swear, I think it was the most insane episode that they have ever had. And it kind of answered a lot of questions and cleared up a lot of speculations that I think we've had in these chats and that you've probably had in your own brain. But if you're in the room, let me know. Let me know you're here. Say hello, and I will give you a shout out. I'm really curious to see what you thought about this week's episode. Next week is the finale, which honestly, I kept thinking, I didn't want to get on my phone and like interrupt the moment, but I kept thinking like, is this the finale? Because it was just so finale worthy. So now I'm thinking like, what are they going to do next week that's more insane than this week? Because this week was crazy, but we kind of left this week on a cliffhanger, which honestly would have been a great cliffhanger to wait until season 3, but maybe we'll clear that up. I don't know. Hi, Lauren. Hi, Shamia. Hi, Ralph. And oh my God, I'm actually here on Monday at 5 p.m. like I said. Is that not the saddest thing? That I'm like happy that I'm actually here on time. So I'm trying to do better for you guys and, you know, stick to a schedule. And yes, I'm trying. But anyway, so I guess the topic at hand is the title of my chat, which I know some people are probably going to get mad at later and be like, oh my God, it's a spoiler. It is not a spoiler. It's just a theory because we don't know at this point whether William is a host or not, but he had some pretty freaking suspicious behavior in this episode, especially at the end when he was digging in his arm, just like we'd seen Bernard do previously, basically digging for the little host mechanism, and he also was looking for that in his daughter when he realized he killed an actual human. I had always thought that she was a real human, and I've been thinking this entire season that he is not. Lauren, I'm doing well. How are you? Thank you so much for being here. So that is the big question, and also wondering, will that be answered next week? I mean, personally, if I were the show, I would make everyone wait till season 3 because I think the rumor is season 3 doesn't come out till like 2021. So that would be a super long wait with a huge cliffhanger. Shamia says William is definitely a host. If he's not, it makes no sense as to why he isn't dead yet from those bullet wounds. And I know he's a bit insane, but I've told you this before. I don't understand why anyone would want to be in that world who's an actual human and be going through that crap every day. Like, that is no kind of life. And I know they tried to let us know that, like, he basically did not have a life in the real world. Like, he assumed he had no family left and he was kind of so cold-hearted. He, like, did not want to be a part of society. But I still think he's playing a role, you know? So I literally gasped when he killed all of the people who basically work with Westworld, like the actual humans, because I think we all knew they were actual humans. And I was like, oh my God, he just killed a bunch of humans. And his daughter was like, you just killed people. And then I was like, oh no, here we go. And Ralph, who was in the room, basically is psychic because he posted a comment like days ago that pretty much entailed everything that was going to happen in this episode. So, whoa, mind blown. Mind blown. Ralph is saying poor Teddy. So obviously when this scene happened with Teddy, I was mad because it's all Dolores' fault. And I basically shouted at my TV, it's all your stupid fault. You know, I loved Dolores last season. I just loved her. She was my favorite character. I've really not liked her at all this season. And of course, she programmed him to be terrible. And I really think as much as I like him and his character, I think this needs to be the end of him. Like, we've already had like the teaser, like he's dead. Now he's dead. And I know like they can have him in flashbacks and stuff, but I'm pretty sure they deleted all of his information. So I believe that he will be off the show, and I really think they should go ahead with that. I don't like when shows kill people off 4 and 5 times and fake kill people off. And I know this is like a weird situation because it's not actually a person, but thank you, Lauren. I hope you have a good week as well. Thank you so much. Shamia says you cannot believe he killed his daughter on Father's Day. And I think they wanted this episode seriously to air on Father's Day to provide that extra sting. I mean, obviously it probably wasn't Father's Day in Westworld, but they really wanted to air this episode on Father's Day to be like, wow, I'm the worst father ever. I'm killing my daughter on Father's Day on the show anyway. Lauren says you are here even though you don't watch the show because you don't have HBO. Westworld is really good, and I agree with you. I really do like Evan Rachel Wood, and she does a really, really great job on this show. Shamia says Dolores regretted fixing Teddy the second she did it. Right, because he obviously turned for the worse. and was like killing people in cold blood and everything, like right after she upped his, I don't even know what the word is, like savagery, you know. So it was just a huge mistake. And then you could tell, even though I think it was muted, like the sound was muted, like she was devastated when he killed himself. And at first, I think we were all thinking like, okay, is he going to kill her? And then I always talk to the TV. I don't know, because it's like, I feel like you guys are there with me, but you're not. And I was like, no, he's going to kill himself, you know? I know no one can hear me, but it's whatever. So yeah, he killed himself, which was like, I mean, gosh, so much stuff. I really seriously cannot believe they didn't use this episode for the finale, but I'm kind of excited that they didn't, because I'm like, well, what are we going to see in next week's episode? So I believe this was the first time ever that we actually put a face, unless I'm wrong, on Juliet, who is William's wife, who's no longer alive. Some really interesting scenes there. And Sela, I believe is how you say it, Ward is a very famous, beautiful actress. So that was a good choice, I think, for that role. She had a lot of issues, and they kind of talked about that with alcoholism. They've kind of touched on that throughout other episodes. But she was able to see the, I don't know what you call it. It was the thing that his daughter had at the end, and that's how he realized, like, oh my God, she's actually human. But it was something he'd put away in a book. He thought she was sleeping. She was listening. The template or whatever. Like, it was basically all the stuff that he had done in Westworld. And she got to see, like, everything he was doing. And then shortly thereafter, she's dead in the bathtub. Like, kind of like 13 Reasons Why. So I thought all of that was, like, super interesting. And I think that some moments at the beginning of this season were not great. I felt like some of the episodes were kind of slow and I wasn't really into it. But I think they've kind of redeemed themselves a lot. I really think some of these later episodes have been better than maybe even some of the first season, even though there were some standouts in that. But maybe it's because that show we haven't seen the first season like in 2 years. Is Westworld my favorite show right now? Asked Lauren. Well, basically there's not a lot on, at least that I watch or that I'm tuned into. I feel like there's not a lot of great shows on right now. So yeah, I wouldn't say Westworld's my favorite show like of all time or anything, but a lot of stuff is coming up. I think Mr. Mercedes comes back pretty soon, which that's excellent. And American Horror Story doesn't come back till September, but still, I love that. Shamia says, you really enjoyed the last scene explaining why Juliet killed herself. You couldn't imagine being married to a murderer and rapist. William is trash for hiding that from his daughter. And the really sad thing always, I think, about William is that he was such a lovely person, at least in my opinion. Like, when he first started going to Westworld, I really loved his character last season. I just thought he was amazing, and I loved, like, the relationship he had with Dolores. And I think it was really hard for me to realize last season that he was the man in black who was this terrible, horrendous person. And I guess, like, the man in black is kind of saying, like, well, these aren't real people. I'm playing, like, basically a virtual video game out here. These aren't real people. I'm just killing people that are robots. People that are robots, you know. But still, I think he also knows that there's so much more to that, and that they have feelings, and he understood that they had feelings beyond what they were supposed to and everything. Also, the revelation, which I think we kind of knew, is that the hosts, the guests, the information and stuff about the guests are being saved, which is really creepy, like, to recreate them. Like, that kind of, I think, is a clue, an early clue that William isn't real as well. Shamia says that I see all the hype about American Horror Story Season 8. Yes, so this Season 8 is going to be the crossover of Coven and Murder House, which were my two favorite seasons until last season came along. I really love last season. Actually, I like the season before too. But anyway, this is the season everyone's been waiting for, so I'm definitely super, super excited for that. Does anyone know what day in September? Because I'm gonna be traveling again. I know you're surprised. So I'm hoping it's like not the first week of September. It probably is, but you know, I don't know. Hi Tim, thank you so much for being here. What did you think about last night's episode? Yeah, so the other thing that they're kind of hinting at based on the preview for next week, and they've kind of been hinting at it from this episode and last episode, which I have not talked to you guys about last week's episode, which we should, is that Logan may still be alive. Like, there's just a lot of talk about him, and you know, the one guy found him out, like, I guess basically delirious because he was dehydrated in last week's episode, which I thought last week's episode was really cool. It was really cool to get a background on this character that we had seen like so much throughout both seasons. And I really thought that he was like an evil character. And he'd only been programmed at one point to be evil, but he wasn't he was like a super nice person. He's a super nice guy. Oh, good. So hopefully AHS will debut, like, premiere, like, late in September, so I won't miss the first week because I probably won't have time to watch it the first week, but it seems like I'm always doing something when that's on, and I don't really like that because I love that show. So Shamia didn't like the hat twist. Feels like a lazy way to explain the surveillance. They could have just said they implanted something into their necks when they entered or something. That is true. Yeah, that is true. Lauren says you like American Horror Story, but you thought that last season wasn't going to be any good, but it's one of your favorites. Yes, I actually have a lot of friends in real life that gave up on last season, and I try to tell them, like, yeah, it ended up being so good. And then people didn't even watch it. Like, people would say, like, I'm not going to watch it because it's about politics, and they never even watched it. And it wasn't really about current politics. That was like the springboard. Batson says the second half of this season has been more understandable. Yes, because really and truly, like, I feel like I don't love sci-fi, okay? So it's kind of a stretch for me to watch Westworld anyway, just kind of like it was a little bit of a stretch for me to get into Orphan Black. So that's just me personally. Some people love sci-fi, and the more sci-fi, the better. But to me, the show this season got super sci-fi to almost the point that it wasn't fun in the beginning for me to watch because it was so hard. I didn't even have any theories because it was just like so all over the place that it wasn't fun. And I was starting to think, I don't know if I'm really into this anymore. But I think they've really turned it around, and by like humanizing it, and I think it's important to keep the stories of humans who were actual humans at some point alive and not totally focus on, like, since almost pretty much everyone's a robot, I think it's important to keep this, to get background on Will. I think having William's daughter was like a huge plus for the show. When they put her in this season, I was like, okay, I can get behind this. I like her in the show. Having his ex-wife, I guess they were still married when she died, so having his wife was good. Batson says for the first half of the season, you were pretty lost, but you stuck with it because you love the first season and you love the cast, but you're fully back in at this point. Yeah, so like last season, I felt good about the whole season. Like, I didn't have any moments where I was like, I don't know, I'm not sure. But honestly, I don't think I ever told you guys this, but I was just kind of going to wait out, like watch this whole season and then see, like, if it ended like super weird and, super confusing, I wasn't sure if I was going to watch season 3, but I just wanted to finish it out. And now I'm like, okay, I'm so glad that they have done what they've done. And it's just, I think last week's episode was really like an emotional episode, and I think that was a really good pacer episode to have in there. Some shows will put an episode like that where it's not centered around really anyone important, and it's just a throwaway episode, and it's like so boring. I've seen a lot of shows do that, but they did a really great job of using an episode, like focusing on someone that we really didn't know or care about, and then like by the end you cared about him and you really appreciated that story, and he actually was important to the rest of the story. So I think that's really great, because I've definitely seen so many different shows throw an episode like that in there where they focus on some random person that you've seen in the background, and you're like, after it's over, you still don't care about them. And you're like, okay, basically this was just like a lazy week off or something. So I really liked what they did with that. And I guess that it's true that this doesn't come back till 2021, which is hard, like really hard. So I guess maybe it's such a huge production that it's hard to crank this out every year, so I'm fine with that. I would rather them take their time and do really quality stuff than some shows that are coming out like twice a year or something. Yes, I couldn't remember how you say his name. Is it, okay, so the guy who was the focal point of last week's episode, is it Cheetah? Probably your new favorite character. Really and truly, he was awesome, and I want more from him, and I feel so bad for him that, like, the love of his life is in that warehouse, and she's, incapable of doing anything right now. I feel like we can bring her back to life, I feel like that story's not over. Shamia says you honestly preferred the more Maeve and Dolores-centered episodes. True. I love Maeve, and she's probably my favorite female of this season. But Shamia says the Ghost Nation and William episodes have been amazing as well. Yeah. Personally, like last season, I was really all waiting about I was really into Dolores. She was the focal point pretty much of the whole season, and I was all about that. But this year it's kind of been Maeve, and I think she is going to be okay. Cheetah? Am I saying that right? I think Maeve next season we'll see her. Maybe even looks like possibly next week we'll see her like back to herself, which is great because she's like so amazing. But I feel like that guy is so amazing too. Cheetah? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I was like, I think it's interesting because based on the previews and stuff, they're very vague. So you never really know exactly what's going to happen. Because I remember the previews for last week's episode were super vague, and I thought we were just exploring like a new world or something. And I was like, I don't know if that's going to be very good. And then it ended up like being so surprising and so good. So I honestly think it's good that they're kind of secretive about what's going to happen each week. So I really don't know what's going to happen in the finale, which that's typical most of the time. Shows are very secretive about the preview for the finale, but I feel like the preview for every episode in the show is kind of mysterious, so you really don't know like what's going to happen. Shamia also really likes the Bernard and Ford merge, such an amazing duo. Yes, and sometimes I've worried that they're going to get rid of Bernard in some way. I don't know, it just feels like it's unstable for him. And then at the beginning of the season, I know when we were doing these chats, a lot of people thought he was hardcore evil, but like seriously evil, not because someone programmed him. But I like him, and I want to believe he's good, and I've never changed my mind. I still believe he's not an evil person or, host or whatever he is. Batson says you're sad because Teddy is probably permanently dead. That's what I'm thinking. He shot himself in his brain, and they destroyed the backups a few episodes ago, so they can't bring him back. And that's what I'm thinking, and I do love James Marsden. First of all, I just like to look at him. I mean, who wouldn't? But, I also didn't like what he had become, and it looked like if he stayed alive, we couldn't switch him back. So, unfortunately, I think they should stick with it again, like I was saying earlier, because it's just a really bad situation when you have a show killing people off, especially twice. They kind of insinuated he was dead earlier, and then being like, nope, he's still alive, or we found a way to bring him back, or whatever. I just don't like that. Like, if you're going to kill someone off, it should be over for them. Jimmy says most HBO series are that. I'm not sure what you mean because I've said a lot of stuff. So maybe you mean like kind of mysterious previews. I don't know. Let me know. Shamia says you feel bad for Bernard. He wants to be great, but the people around him won't let him. I agree. I think that they, because he's always like trying to like get his mind straight and remember things. And I think he wants to be a good person, but people are always messing with his settings and everything else. And, I feel like he's just in a really bad state this season, and he's always like so confused and he's such a smart person, but he's always trying to put all the pieces together, and it's just, he's like struggled this whole season. And really, a lot of times I feel like sometimes they're going to get rid of him and like never bring him back. I don't know. So Batson says, Dolores changing so much and leading Teddy to kill himself mirrors what happened with William and his wife. It's interesting to see how they're doing that. That's a really, really, really good point that I hadn't thought of. And you're absolutely right. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess someone is responsible for taking their own life. But I think, a lot of things play into that, and people that you are the closest to play into that. Not that anyone can, I guess, force you to do that. Unless they're, I don't know. I mean, maybe they can, but you know what I mean? Like mentally force you. But I think they can persuade you by their actions. She never was like trying to tell him to kill himself or whatever, but just the stuff, what she made him become was he knew that wasn't right, and that's not what he was supposed to be. And now he's not here anymore. Shamia says you feel bad for Elsie as well. I agree, because it's a very confusing situation for her. But you also think she would have died if she would have gone into the valley beyond, so you're not too mad she got ditched. There's been a lot of debate, and I think some of that has happened here in these chats. There's some people, maybe not in the room today, but in the room on other days, who think that she's a robot. Now, I still think that she is real. I don't know what you guys think about that. And I do feel bad for her because they tied her up in that place and whatever, and left her with like energy bars, energy drinks, or power bars or something. Like, she doesn't know who to trust, and she doesn't know if she can trust Bernard because she's seen both sides of him and he's all over the place. So I personally think she's not a host, and I think she's in a bad situation. And I'm also wondering like what will happen to her. Like, will she survive? And if she doesn't, will they try to bring her back as a host? I don't know. I could see her disappearing. I don't think that she's super important that we have to have her around, but I do feel bad for her. And Jimmy thinks she's real. I really do, but I think there's not a lot of real people. We should have this discussion again, but like, what do you think about the rest of the cast, like the Hemsworth brother. I can't think of his name on here. The other Hemsworth. Do you think he's real or not? Do you think Tessa Thompson's character is real or not? There's been a lot of debate about that. Shamia says, you think Elsie is 100% real? You feel like the Valley Beyond is going to be a big blowout? They already killed Teddy, so they probably won't kill any more MCs for the rest of the season, but still, I'm agreeing with you. I do think she's real, and I do think also it's going to be absolutely insane. Yes. Steve says, how can William be a robot? Didn't he get cleared right before he killed his daughter? Good point. But didn't we also have a false read on Bernard at one point from those little detectors that look like tasers? So I think either he could be like an advanced model, which can surpass that kind of scan, or there's an issue with those scans. I don't know. I think at this point in the show, he doesn't know. And that's why I think he's digging in his arm. Like, I think he's not sure. Are you kidding me? Oh my God, you just make my, oh, that's terrible. You're like, make my heart stop here. Apparently there's something going on with Heather Locklear, because she was trying to kill herself. I don't know. That's terrible. I'm thinking you're telling me this is like breaking news and not about like something going on in a show. I haven't looked at the news in a minute, but that's awful. Oh my God. Batson thinks that Charlotte, who is played by Tessa Thompson, is a host. There's been a lot of debate about that, so I don't know. It's interesting. Batson says there's a shot in the trailer where it looks like Charlotte is finding a host version of herself. Interesting. Interesting. And about Heather, that's terrible. I hope she's okay. Again, I haven't been able to look at the news. I hope this didn't happen. I hope she'll be okay. Oh, that's really disappointing and sad. Well, I don't know if she died. I don't know. You guys are freaking me out. I don't know. Whoa, maybe I should just Google it. This is crazy. We'll take one moment to Google this. Wow, this is just so sad. This stuff really bothers me. Guys, this is awful. Sorry, I'm trying to Google it on another. Well, what I'm seeing is that she is in the hospital. So it sounds like at this point she's not dead, so let's hope not. Shamia says, I hope we know all the hidden hosts right now. It's going to get cringy if everyone becomes a host. People are starting to make fun of it on Twitter. Right. I think it is a little ridiculous if everyone is a host. We have to have some people who aren't. But maybe that's part of the show. Maybe that's part of this the little secret they've been keeping from us. And I've thought about this before. Could they be keeping the secret that everyone is a host? And everyone's a host. And you also have to think about whatever time period we're in this show is always in the past. So at some point, you know, they obviously can take people who were humans and bring them back as a host. So it doesn't mean that we've always seen these people and the whole time they've been hosts. We could be seeing some of these people as real people, like William and Charlotte and Elsie and whoever else. And at some point, because the timelines are all over the place, you know, they died and were brought back as a host and you didn't know the difference, you know. And I don't feel as cheated by the show if it's that way. Now, if it's the other way, that 100% the whole time we've been watching this, everyone was a host and that, you know, most everyone was never a real human, that's a little bit weird. Shamia says, unless the end game is that the entire world is already taken over by hosts, and this is just flashbacks to how we got here. Now, that actually is really good because we still don't know what is going on outside of this amusement park. So we don't know if everyone's not a host. Again, we are not in the present in there. So, and again, we also don't know. I think it's a good possibility that people, once we saw them at some point in the show and they were real, and at some point they died and we haven't seen that play out and they came back as a non-human, you know. No, Lauren, that's okay. It sounds like she's going to be okay. As from what I just did a quick a Google thing about Heather Locklear, and wow, very, very sad. But thankfully it sounds like, you know, someone got to her before the worst happened. So, Ralph says you can't read William if he was a host, if he had his C6 removed like Maeve, which means no explosive to read. So yes, so there are ways to get around being detected, and I truly think that he doesn't know, like at that point in the episode, like I don't think he knows if he's a human or if he's a host. I really don't. He's really messed up. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen to him. And I was like, is he really going to kill himself? I didn't think he would last night, and he didn't. So Batson thinks William is human, and he's just so invested in the game that he thinks Ford is manipulating everything. Now that he killed his daughter, he wants to believe that he didn't have free will, and that's the other side of it. I think it's a possibility that he's human and he's insane. He's obviously lost his mind. I think he lost his mind a long time ago if he's human. It's, the extreme showing of that is to kill those people, which I think he knew were human, the people that came to check on him and everything. They weren't even going to harm him, And then, of course, killing his daughter because he was convinced she was a host and he was convinced that Ford had planted her. And he's just been so convinced of so many things that everything is going on to hurt him and that Ford is trying to destroy him and that there's, he's got to win this game. He's got to get to the end of it. And his daughter was like, wow, she could tell. I think this isn't normal. Shamia says you thought he would try to kill himself and he wouldn't die and realize he was a host, which would have been interesting. And I also thought maybe he would kill himself and he was actually human at that point, and then he would be brought back. Aliens, yeah, I think there's a possibility. Yeah, I do. Batson says he wants to be a host so he won't feel guilty about killing his daughter. I see that, yes, because then he can blame Ford for making him do it. So that, yeah, I definitely think he just didn't know, and he was desperately digging in his arm to be basically, please God, make me be a host because, I'm not going to... Did I really, as a human, kill my human daughter? So she tried to tell him so many times that she was human. And he thought basically, she was like a mirage. She was a plant by Ford. And it's really, really, really sad, But overall, I just really like this episode. So now I have really high hopes for next week, because this episode was just so good and just kind of blew me away that it was this good, being that I didn't have a lot of expectations because it was the episode before and they hadn't really led us up to anything crazy happening. Batson says it's so ironic that the episode aired on Father's Day. I really think the people behind the show planned this because it's the worst thing a father could do on that holiday. Literally the worst. Again, it wasn't Father's Day within Westworld, but they, I think, really wanted to make him seem as terrible as he is, Shamia says it would make sense if that's how William's storyline progresses, since this entire season has been about humans wanting to become hosts. Yeah. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see where this show goes, and I don't have any idea how many seasons they're planning or how long we can go with it before it's kind of old or they run out of stuff to do. So that I think will be interesting too. But I'm really intrigued and really excited to see where it goes. I kind of feel like it's not the type of show that can go on for 8 or 9 seasons, maybe 4 or 5 is what I'm thinking. Not because I don't like it, just because I think the concept could get really, really old if we keep going. And I think we would run out of things to do and things to make it interesting. And, I guess with people being hosts, they can just live forever. So we don't really have that issue. But Jimmy says they're planning 5 seasons. So I think that's good. I think that's acceptable. Batson says HBO probably planned it. A few years ago, they premiered a Game of Thrones episode on Father's Day where someone kills their father. So I really do think it was planned, because I've seen tons of tweets from people within the show and stuff who reference Father's Day. So I think they wanted to, drive that message home. Yeah, they definitely wanted drama on Father's Day. So thankfully this was not a real show and this really didn't happen and someone didn't really kill their child on Father's Day. Well, at least, that's probably sadly happened before, but at least this wasn't a true story. So Shamia says they stretched Game of Thrones out to 8 seasons, so you wouldn't be surprised. So again, I think it's also based on how popular is this show, what is its staying power? Do people are still crazy about it in a couple of years? And I don't know what the ratings have been. I feel like last year the ratings were okay, but not... I don't know. I thought it was weird. I don't think it was up for, any awards at all last year, or based on the first season, so a little strange. But, because I feel like Game of Thrones has been nominated a few times. I don't know if they've won, but I feel like they get nominated, so... No, you know what? I do think it was up for some awards, and now that I think about it, I feel like a couple of the actors were up for awards. So, whatever. But it wasn't, crazy amounts. Batson says this show can't go on forever because it wouldn't make sense for hosts to age, but they can't prevent the cast from getting older. Yeah, that's the other issue we have, where everyone as we know them are just going to stay. And I guess most people on the cast are in an age where a few years won't make them look super, super old, because we don't have a lot of kids or teens that's going to really mess it up by aging. So Ralph said Teddy's good nature broke Dolores's program. Yeah, but again, I'm just really angry with her, and I don't like her at all this season, and it's totally her fault. And I mean, like, I'm not really sorry that she's upset and she's all alone because she put herself in that position, which was really stupid. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up here. If you're watching this after this has been live, let me know if you've enjoyed this chat by giving me a thumbs up. And you can always leave your comments even if you weren't able to be here live, because I am checking all the time now to respond to people. I don't know. I really need to find like a new show that's coming out that hasn't already been on. I don't really like having to catch up. I just don't have the time to catch up on stuff. So if you guys know of anything that's coming out, I am going to try to watch the new HBO show that comes out next month. Why can't I think of the name? It's like Something Broken or something. It's pointless to talk about it because I can't think of the name, but the actress who's in it is like super famous, and I've mentioned it before. Something Objects. It looks really good, kind of like about ghosts or something. I don't know. It might be terrible, but it looks good. So I'm going to try that out next month. But if there's anything, you know, that's new, that's coming out, that's kind of like the genre that I'd like, let me know. Again, I just don't see myself catching up on something or watching old stuff or whatever. Sharp Objects. Thank you. I just don't have the time, and I don't really enjoy going back to do stuff and then doing it for my channel. If I do go back and watch old stuff, I just kind of watch it on my own, so I don't feel like pressured to catch up, you know, like I can watch it on my own time. Yes, Evan Rachel Wood plays Dolores. Yes. So yeah, and Mr. Mercedes should be coming back pretty soon. And also The Sinner. I need to find out when The Sinner is coming back, even though Jessica Biel's not on it, so I'm not sure how to feel about that. But I'll try it because I really liked last season. But you can always tweet me or comment about a show that you know that is new for this summer or this fall that looks good and is kind of along the same lines, like mystery, drama, stuff like that. People getting killed, you know, the standard. But I hope you guys are having a good week so far. Thank you so much for being here, and I will definitely be back next Monday to talk about the finale. I'm really excited for that. So anyway, have a great day. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.